Fatoumata Bä is 'n suksesvolle entrepreneur, belegger en die stigter van Django, bekend as Afrika se eerste social startup studio. Met kantore in die Ivoorkus en Frankryk, sluit Fatoumata nou vanuit Parys by ons aan. Fatoumata, welcome to WINSLYN.
Thanks for having me, Devon.
Fatoumata, let's talk about a post-COVID Africa. How do you envision this is going to look like?
Well, COVID is really definitely a huge challenge to us. But as a former entrepreneur and an investor, I like to see challenges are untapped opportunities. And what we've seen so far is some groundbreaking innovations are happening on the ground to be able not only to save lives, but also to save livelihood. A good example of that is the Africa Medical Supplies Platform that have been built, launched, and is operated under the mandate of the African Union. And basically it started out of a challenge where 3 months ago, our member states in Africa could not access PPE, test kits, or clinical management devices, despite they had the money, because international manufacturers will not pay enough attention or will not give any allocation to Africa. In a matter of weeks, we came up with a platform which allows now 55 EU member states to have access to all international manufacturers. It has been so successful that even Caribbean countries have applied to join.
Fatoumata, it sounds like all African economies are starting to really work together. Do you think that the free trade agreement that is on the cards at the moment and that is going to get into action, is that changing the way entrepreneurship is actually happening on the continent?
Absolutely. And I think that actually the pandemic is driving a faster sense of urgency and a stronger sense of urgency on the CFTA agreement. A good proof of that is, for instance, on this medical platform, you actually have already manufacturers from Rwanda, from South Africa, from Nigeria, from Tunisia, and so many other countries that are selling to their African counterpart, which is our dream. The CFTA is supposed to be, let's say, launched officially from early next year. And we see that actually that it's already happening with, let's say, the pandemic fast-tracking the needs. And we see that, again, when there is a sense of urgency, we can come together, find solutions, and even accelerate an implementation of something that have been maybe in our dream as an African continent for decades now.
How do we get it right for the continent in itself to be this base or this cultivating environment for entrepreneurs to thrive in?
Well, for entrepreneurs to strive, they need capital, right? And there is something that is very unfair about the state of capital availability in Africa at the moment, which is basically if you compare the African continent with even, India, you have more or less the same population. You have more or less the same GDP with $3,000 billion. You have actually more internet users, more devices, more mobile phones in Africa than in India. But for some reason, they raise 17 times more money than Africa. And this is something that us as investors are trying to fix, because we know that the talent is very equally distributed in Africa, but we don't have the same access to opportunities. And the first one we need to fix is to enable and unlock an equal opportunity to access capital.
So obviously another big challenge is the access to the internet. How do we get it right to quickly solve for this?
I think this is a huge issue, because when we see today, Smart Africa that is based in Rwanda has been actually working with regulators from across all the continent to understand the reasons. Some will argue about infrastructures, but it is not the only reason. For instance, Rwanda is a landlocked country, and it costs $18 to produce a certain amount of data. The same amount of data is costing $60 to produce in Côte d'Ivoire, which is actually a country that has access to the sea and has access to submarine cables. So you see that here there is some irrationality. So there is also a lot of advocacy that is done so that governments can understand that if they lower the barrier and the data price goes down, there are so many services that will be enabled, healthcare services, education services, access to market for SMEs, and all this will actually help lift the, let's say, normal economy, create more jobs, have more taxes, because then you have more growth. So we really are, and I'm really a strong advocate for bringing the data cost down, and I think we are making sound progress towards that.
Fatoumata, it was fascinating having you on the show. Thank you so much.